I want to talk to you today about grace for Gethsemane. You know, we all have those moments in life where it feels like the pressure is too much, the weight is too heavy, and the road ahead is filled with uncertainty. Just like Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, we face times when we wish the cup would pass from us. But the good news is, God never asks you to face your Gethsemane alone. He gives you grace, strength, and supernatural favor right in the middle of your struggle. You may feel overwhelmed, but grace is going to carry you. You may not see a way, but grace is making a way. God is not just with you on the mountaintop. He's right there in your Gethsemane, giving you what you need to press forward. Somebody needs to hear this today. You have grace for Gethsemane. Grace for the pressure, grace for the pain, grace for the process. Grace doesn't remove the cup, it empowers you to drink it. When Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, facing the most intense emotional and spiritual battle of his life, he prayed something that sounds very human. Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. That's not weakness, that's honesty. And I believe some of you today have been asking God to take the cup away. You're praying for the situation to change, for the struggle to end, for the pressure to lift. And while there's nothing wrong with asking, sometimes God doesn't take the cup, but He always gives the grace. See, we think grace is just what we receive when we make a mistake or fall short. But grace is so much more than that. Grace is divine empowerment. It's heaven's strength flooding your spirit when your flesh is ready to give up. Grace doesn't necessarily change your situation, but it changes you in the situation. It gives you a supernatural ability to do what you could never do on your own. Jesus didn't get up from that garden because the pain disappeared. He got up because grace gave him the strength to move forward. That same grace is available to you right now. Maybe you're walking through a season where everything feels uncertain. The relationship is shaking. The job is rocky. Your emotions are all over the place. And you're saying, God, I can't do this anymore. But the reason you're still standing, the reason you're still here, is because grace has been carrying you even when you didn't realize it. You don't have to fake strength. You don't have to pretend everything's okay. You just need to lean into the grace of God. The Apostle Paul said, when I am weak, then I am strong. Because God told him, my grace is sufficient for you. That means grace doesn't wait for you to have it all together. Grace shows up when you're falling apart. Grace is power in weakness. Grace is courage when fear is shouting loud. Grace is peace in the middle of the storm. Stop thinking that God is disappointed because you're struggling. Jesus struggled in Gethsemane. He was so overwhelmed that he sweat drops of blood. But he didn't quit. He didn't run, and neither will you. Because the same Spirit that strengthened him in the garden is living on the inside of you. That cup you're holding may feel bitter, it may feel heavy, but grace will give you the power to lift it, to drink it, and to rise from it with purpose and victory. Gethsemane moments reveal who you really trust. It's easy to say you trust God when everything's going right, when doors are opening, prayers are being answered, and life feels good. But real trust shows up in the dark places. Real trust is proven when the answer hasn't come, when the path isn't clear, and when your heart is heavy with disappointment. That's what Jesus faced in the Garden of Gethsemane. He knew what was coming: pain, betrayal, the cross. And yet, in the middle of that crushing weight, he still said, not my will, but yours be done. That's not just surrender, that's trust on a whole other level. You see, Gethsemane moments strip away the noise. They remove the distractions. When you're in that place where you have no backup plan, where people can't fix it, where the money isn't enough and the talent can't carry you, it forces you to decide where your faith really is. Are you trusting in the outcome, or are you trusting in the one who controls the outcome? Some of you are in that Gethsemane season right now, and it feels lonely, it feels silent, but let me encourage you, this is not the place where God has abandoned you. This is the place where God is inviting you to trust Him deeper. It's in these moments that something shifts in your spirit. You stop trying to figure it all out. You stop needing to understand everything. And you begin to rest in the fact that God knows what He's doing, even when you don't. God never promised the road would be easy, but He did promise He'd never leave you. When you're walking through your Gethsemane, you're not walking alone. God is right there, strengthening you in ways you can't see. He's shaping your faith, purifying your motives, stretching your endurance, and even though it's painful, it's purposeful. This place is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to define you. It's where your trust is deepened, your character is refined, and your destiny begins to take shape. Don't mistake silence for absence. Don't let the pressure convince you that God isn't working. Sometimes the silence is where the roots grow deep. Sometimes the crushing is where the oil flows. And sometimes the greatest act of faith is not shouting, not running, just standing, just staying, just saying, God, I don't understand this, but I still trust you. When Jesus said yes in Gethsemane, it changed everything. And when you say yes in your Gethsemane, it unlocks something powerful in your life too. You don't have to see the full picture. You don't have to feel strong every moment. You just have to trust that the God who brought you to this place has a reason, and He's not done yet. God sends strength before the breakthrough. When Jesus was in Gethsemane, carrying the weight of the world on His shoulders, the scripture says that after He prayed in agony, an angel appeared and strengthened Him. Now the situation hadn't changed yet. The cross was still ahead. The pain was still coming, but before the trial unfolded, before the arrest, before the mocking, before the nails, God sent strength, and I want you to know today that's exactly what He does for you. He doesn't always take the struggle away, but He gives you strength for what's ahead. Sometimes we're waiting for the breakthrough before we believe God is moving. We're waiting for the healing, for the promotion, for the open door. And we think once it happens, I'll feel better. Once it changes, I'll be strong. But that's not how God works. He gives you strength before the breakthrough. He equips you for what's coming, not just for what's behind you. That strength may not always feel like fireworks or goosebumps. It may just be the ability to take another step, to get out of bed, to show up with faith even when you feel empty. That strength is often silent. It's not dramatic, but it's divine. It's God whispering to your spirit, you're not alone. I'm still with you. I've put something inside of you that the enemy can't shake. You may not realize it, but every time you choose faith over fear, every time you worship when you could worry, every time you trust instead of panic, you're walking in supernatural strength. Jesus didn't walk out of Gethsemane with his situation fixed. He walked out with his soul fortified, and that's what God is doing in your life right now. He's not waiting until the trial is over to give you what you need. He's giving it to you right in the middle of the trial. Before the door opens, before the answer comes, before the miracle manifests, God is sending strength. You might say, but I don't feel strong. That's okay. Strength isn't always a feeling, it's a force. It's the quiet courage to keep going. It's the unshakable peace that says, I don't understand this, but I'm still standing. That's not your own doing. That's God's strength rising up in you. The enemy wants you to think you're too weak to make it. But if that were true, you wouldn't still be here. You wouldn't still be fighting. You wouldn't still be pressing forward. The fact that you're still breathing, still believing, still trusting, that's proof that strength has already been sent your way. God never leads you into a season without providing the grace and power to walk through it. Just like He did for Jesus in the garden, He's doing for you right now in ways you can't always see, in ways you didn't even know you needed. Your tears in the garden water the seeds of purpose. When Jesus wept in Gethsemane, it wasn't just an expression of emotion. It was a release of purpose. The garden was a place of sorrow, yes, but it was also sacred ground. It was the place where destiny was watered by pain, and I want to tell you today, your tears are not wasted. They're not a sign of weakness. They're a sign that something deeper is happening inside of you. Every tear you've cried in the dark, every silent night you've endured, every prayer soaked in heartbreak, God has seen it, and He's using it to grow something beautiful. In the natural, when you water a seed, you don't see instant results. There's no overnight bloom, but underground in the unseen, roots are growing, foundations are forming, life is being prepared, and just like that, your tears are preparing the soil of your spirit for what God is about to do. You may not see it yet, but something is shifting. That sorrow you've carried, it's not just sorrow, it's prophetic. It's speaking to the greatness that's about to rise from the ground of your struggle. Sometimes we think that crying means we've lost faith, but Jesus cried. He wept so deeply that his sweat became like drops of blood. If the Son of God could cry in his calling, so can you. Tears don't mean you're broken. They mean you're being made whole. They're evidence that your heart is still tender, still believing, still expecting God to move. And those tears, my friend, are watering something far greater than you know. The enemy wants you to think you've failed because you're emotional. He'll whisper, if you really trusted God, you wouldn't feel this way. But that's a lie. Faith doesn't deny emotion. Faith brings your emotion to the feet of God. Jesus didn't pretend everything was fine. He didn't fake joy in the garden. He got honest. He cried. He wrestled. He released. And in doing so, he made space for purpose to rise. When you cry in the presence of God, you're not falling apart. You're laying a foundation. You're letting go of control and allowing grace to take over. You're saying, God, I don't understand it, but I trust you with it. And that is when transformation begins. Those tears are not the end of your story. They're the beginning of a resurrection. Gethsemane was not the finish line for Jesus. It was the preparation ground for the cross and the glory beyond it. In the same way, your tears are preparing you for something greater. The very place where you've felt the most broken is the place God is about to use to bring the most breakthrough. Keep watering those seeds with faith, with prayer, with worship, because purpose is pushing through the soil. Angels come in the unseen spaces. When Jesus was at his lowest point in the Garden of Gethsemane, overwhelmed with sorrow, the scripture says that God sent an angel to strengthen him. What's powerful is, nobody else saw that angel. The disciples were asleep. The garden was quiet. The darkness seemed to be winning. But in that hidden moment, help from heaven showed up. And I want to remind you today, just because you can't see it doesn't mean God isn't sending it. Just because it feels like no one understands, like no one sees your pain, doesn't mean heaven hasn't been moved by your tears. God often sends his greatest help in the most silent places. You may not hear the trumpet blast. You may not feel a thunderous shift, but there's an angel assigned to your Gethsemane. There's divine help showing up behind the scenes. It may come as peace that doesn't make sense. It may come as a whisper of hope when you felt like giving up. It may come as supernatural strength to get up and try again. However it comes, it's heaven saying, you're not alone in this. Some of the greatest moves of God happen in the unseen. When you're praying and don't feel anything, when you're worshipping through tears, when you're holding onto faith by a thread, those are the moments when heaven leans in. The enemy will try to tell you that if you can't see the miracle, then nothing's happening. But we don't walk by sight, we walk by faith. And faith says, even when I don't see it, God is moving. Even when it's silent, angels are being dispatched. Strength is being released. Grace is flowing like a river in the middle of your desert. You're not abandoned, you're not forgotten. Just like Jesus, you may be surrounded by silence, but you're also surrounded by angels. You may not see the support, but you will feel the shift. Sometimes it won't come in fireworks. It won't always look like deliverance. Sometimes the angel doesn't pull you out of the garden. Sometimes it just holds you up long enough to get through it, and that's still a miracle, that's still divine. You don't have to know how it's going to work out. You don't have to feel strong all the time. You just need to remember that God has a support system for you that's bigger than what your eyes can see. In the midnight hour, when no one else knows what you're going through, there's help from another realm on the way. Keep showing up, keep believing, keep trusting, because what's happening in the invisible is more powerful than what you feel in the natural. God is sending strength, peace, and protection tailored just for you. The angels may be unseen, but they are always on time, always on mission, and always moving at the word of your Father. Obedience in Gethsemane unlocks resurrection power. When Jesus said, "Not my will, but yours be done," in that quiet, agonizing garden, something shifted in the spiritual realm. The cross was still ahead, the suffering hadn't passed, but the moment he surrendered fully to the will of the Father, the power for resurrection was set into motion. And that's what obedience does. It may not change the situation immediately, but it activates something supernatural that carries you through it and raises you above it. There's a kind of obedience that comes easy, when the path is clear, when the blessing is visible, when the promise feels close. But Gethsemane obedience is different. It's when everything in you wants to run, when your heart is breaking, when you're praying for another way, but you still say yes. That yes doesn't come from comfort. It comes from trust. It comes from knowing that what God has planned on the other side of this garden is greater than what you're feeling in the middle of it. Some of you are facing your own Gethsemane. God is asking you to stay faithful in a dry place, to forgive someone who hurt you, to walk away from something you've been holding on to. And your flesh is screaming, there's got to be another way. But let me encourage you, obedience in this moment is not about losing, it's about unlocking. When you obey in the garden, you're preparing for glory, you're making room for power, you're stepping into purpose you can't yet see. You don't have to feel strong to obey, you don't even have to feel ready. Jesus didn't walk out of that garden because he felt like it. He walked out because he chose to trust, and in that trust, resurrection power was activated. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead lives in you. But it's obedience that opens the flow. It's surrender that pulls back the veil and allows God's strength to move in your weakness. We often want resurrection without the garden. We want glory without surrender. But the miracle is born in that yes. Not a loud yes, not a perfect yes. Just an honest one. When you say, "God, this hurts, but I'll still follow." When you whisper, "I don't understand, but I still believe," heaven moves. That yes doesn't just change your direction. It changes your dimension. You go from natural strength to supernatural strength, from fear to faith, from striving to resting in His will. Obedience in Gethsemane is never easy, but it's always worth it. Because what you unlock in that moment isn't just for you. It's for generations, it's for your future, it's for the people your story will inspire. You may be in the pressing now, but resurrection is coming. Don't underestimate the power of your yes in the garden. It may be quiet, it may be costly, but it's the key to everything God has prepared for you. I want to remind you today, Gethsemane is not the end of your story. It's not where you're going to stay. It's just a chapter on the way to glory. It may be the place of pressing, the place of tears, the place of struggle, but it is also the place where grace meets you in your weakness. It's where strength shows up before the storm, where angels are dispatched when no one sees, and where purpose is planted with every tear you cry. Don't resent your Gethsemane. Don't rush to escape it. Embrace the truth that God is just as present in the garden as He is at the resurrection. He sees your pain. He hears your prayers. He knows the weight you're carrying, and He has already sent the strength you need to walk through it. Just like Jesus, your obedience in the hard place is unlocking something far greater than you can imagine. It's preparing the way for resurrection power in your life. You may be asking, why is this happening? Why the silence? Why the pressure? But the better question is, God, what are you producing in me through this? Because the garden isn't just about what you're walking through. It's about who you're becoming. Gethsemane is the place where fear turns into faith, where surrender replaces striving, where trust is no longer a concept but a lifestyle. And here's the good news, just as Jesus rose from that garden stronger, with clarity, courage, and the power of heaven behind Him, you're rising too. You may not see it yet, but you're getting stronger. That crushing is producing oil. That pressing is birthing power. That obedience is stirring up a breakthrough. and the God who met Jesus in Gethsemane will meet you right in your moment of need. So hold your head high, wipe those tears, square your shoulders. You are not walking alone. You are not forgotten. Heaven is leaning in and grace is carrying you. The garden may be part of the journey, but glory is still the destination. Keep trusting, keep obeying, keep believing, because grace for Gethsemane is the proof that resurrection is coming. And your story, just like his, will not end in the garden. It will rise in glory.